I discovered my whole family had known for 2 years that my wife was cheating on me with my brother, and not one of them said a word. My name's Trevor, I'm 34, and for most of my life I was pretty predictable. Mechanical engineer for an industrial equipment manufacturer. Not exactly rock and roll, but it paid the bills, put money in the retirement account, and I was damn good at it. The kind of stable, boring life that apparently made me the punching bag for my family's cruel joke. Then there was Kelly, my wife. 32, dental hygienist. We met through friends, dated for 2 years, got married. Pretty standard stuff. We talked about kids, a house, the whole suburban dream. She seemed to want the same things. And then there's my brother Dylan. 29. He's the complete opposite of me. Charismatic, funny, the life of every party. A fitness trainer at some swanky gym where he yells at rich people. Never held down a relationship for more than 6 months. Always had an excuse about not wanting to be tied down. He was the fun one. My parents, Richard and Joan, they live about 20 minutes away. My dad runs a small accounting firm, him and 2 employees, handling small businesses and personal taxes. Mom helps out. They've been doing it for 30 years, built a decent life, even helped us kids out from time to time. I'm the oldest of 3. Dylan's the middle, and then there's our sister Lauren, 26, who works at a non-profit. We were always close, or so I thought. Sunday dinners at Mom and Dad's were mandatory. Laughing inside jokes. I genuinely believed we were a good, tight-knit family. Turns out I was the joke, and it lasted for 2 years. The world shattered for me about 3 months ago. I was home, absolutely miserable with a stomach bug. Kelly had told me she was going to her book club, a typical Thursday night thing she did with her girlfriends. Someone's house, wine, a novel they were reading. Around 8 p.m. my phone buzzed. A text from my buddy Wade. It just said, "Dude, isn't that your wife?" Below it, a photo. From a restaurant downtown. Kelly was in a booth across from Dylan. Both laughing, her hand resting on his across the table. It wasn't a brotherly touch. The way she was leaning in, the look in his eyes. I didn't need to be a detective to know exactly what I was seeing. A cold dread settled deep in my gut, and it had nothing to do with being sick anymore. I called Wade immediately. He'd been grabbing takeout with his girlfriend. He said they looked like they were on a date, sharing appetizers, being all cozy. He almost didn't send it, but thought I'd want to know. I mumbled thanks and just stared at my phone for what felt like an hour. My brain was screaming for an explanation. A surprise party? Just dinner between siblings? But siblings don't hold hands like that. I called Kelly. Straight to voicemail. Tried Dylan. Same. So, I did what any desperate, suspicious husband would do. I started digging. Old phone records, credit card statements. We had joint accounts so I could see everything. I went back 6 months just looking for patterns. Once I knew what I was looking for, they were everywhere. Every Thursday book club. Charges at different restaurants. Sometimes hotels. Always those nights. Always when she was with her girlfriends. Dylan's gym was closed on Thursdays. His day off. The coincidence was sickeningly obvious. I checked our shared calendar. That book club had been happening for 2 years. Every single Thursday, sometimes extending to weekend girls' trips, that were actually romantic getaways. The credit card receipts painted a vivid picture. Couples dinners, hotel rooms with 2 breakfasts, tickets to concerts she'd supposedly gone to with her friend, Jessica. 2 years of lies. 2 years of my brother sleeping with my wife while I was at work, grinding away, finishing project reports. But here's the part that really broke me. I started looking at old family photos from holidays and gatherings over those 2 years. I mean, really looking. And I saw it. The way Dylan and Kelly stood just a little too close in group shots. The inside jokes at Christmas dinner that I never got. The times Dylan would help Kelly with something, and they'd vanish for 30 minutes. My family knew. I could see it in their faces now. The shared glances. The barely suppressed smiles. When Kelly and Dylan interacted, they all freaking knew. And nobody said word. Kelly came home around 11 p.m. that night. Dropped her purse on the counter like it was any other Thursday. "Hey babe, how are you feeling?" she asked, oblivious. "Where were you tonight?" I asked, my voice flat, almost unrecognizable. "Book club, same as always. We finished that thriller everyone's been talking about. Jennifer couldn't make it, but the rest of us had a good discussion." "That's interesting," I said, "because Wade saw you at Giovanni's with Dylan. Want to try that answer again?" The color drained from her face. She stammered, tried to explain it away as a coincidence, running into him. I pulled up my laptop. The spreadsheet was already open. 2 years of Thursday dinners, hotel stays. Her girls' weekend, to Napa that perfectly lined up with Dylan posting photos from Napa. The New Year's trip to Denver where I was stuck working, and Dylan had been in Denver the same weekend. How long? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She started crying. Trevor, I can explain. How long? 2 years, she whispered. But it's not what you think. We never meant for it to happen. It just... I closed the laptop. Get out, I said. Go stay wherever you want. Just get out of my house. She tried to argue, to explain her love, to say it was a mistake. I just told her the only mistake was me thinking I knew who she was. She packed a bag and was gone by midnight. I sat there in the dark for a long time. Then I did something that, in hindsight, was the best decision I made. I called a lawyer. Before I called anyone in my family. My attorney Mitchell was a solid, no-nonsense guy. I left him a voicemail explaining the raw basics, begging for an appointment first thing in the morning. Then I texted my parents, need to talk to you tomorrow. It's important. My mom immediately replied, is everything okay, sweetie? I just said, no. I'll explain tomorrow. Just you and Dad. No one else. Dylan and Lauren remained blissfully unaware for now. The next morning, I dragged myself to work, feeling like death, but it was a different kind of pain now. My boss was cool, told me to take time off if I needed it. I met Mitchell during lunch. Laid it all out, the affair, the evidence, the timeline. Divorce procedures, asset division. He walked me through it. One question, he said. Do you want to try to work it out, or are you done? I'm done. He nodded. Then let's proceed. I'll file the papers this week. After work, I drove to my parents' house. Friday evening. Dad would be finishing up, Mom making dinner. Perfect time to drop a bomb. They greeted me with concern. Mom tried to hug me, but I stepped back. That's when they knew something was truly wrong. We sat in the living room. Dad muted the TV. Mom perched on the edge of the couch, worried. Kelly's been having an affair with Dylan for 2 years, I said. No build-up. Just straight to it. Dad's face went through this weird contortion, like he was trying to look surprised but couldn't quite pull it off. Mom's reaction was even worse. She looked guilty. Not shocked. Not horrified. Just guilty. Oh, honey, Mom started. How did you find out? Not are you sure? Or that can't be true. Just how did you find out? You knew, I stated. It wasn't a question. Mom and Dad exchanged that look. The look that confirmed everything I'd suspected since I started poring over those photos. Trevor, we didn't think it was our place to. Dad began. You didn't think it was your place to tell me my wife was screwing my brother? My voice was unnervingly calm, a terrifying contrast to the storm inside me. How long have you known? Another guilty look. About a year, Mom admitted quietly. Dylan told us he was seeing someone. And then we saw them together at the farmer's market one Sunday when you were out of town. We confronted them and they begged us not to say anything. They said they were going to end it. A year ago, I repeated. So for an entire year, you watched me show up to Sunday dinners with my wife, watched her and Dylan act like nothing was happening, and you just let it continue? We thought they'd handle it themselves, Dad said. We didn't want to be the ones to break up your marriage. The absolute insanity of that logic. It would have been funny if it wasn't gut-wrenching. They didn't want to break up my marriage, so they just let my wife and brother do it in slow motion while everyone watched. Does Lauren know? I asked. More guilty silence. Everyone knows, I said flatly. Sunday dinners for the past year. Everyone sitting around that table, knowing my wife was cheating on me with my brother. And you all just, what? Thought it was funny? Of course we didn't think it was funny. Mom protested, near tears. Then why didn't anyone tell me? Dad shifted uncomfortably. It's complicated. Family dynamics are. Get out, I interrupted him. This is our house, Dad pointed out. Then I'm leaving, I said, rising. But here's what's going to happen. I'm divorcing Kelly. I'm cutting Dylan out of my life completely. And I need some serious time to figure out how I feel about parents who watched their son get humiliated for a year and did absolutely nothing. I headed for the door. Mom followed, pleading, begging me to understand, not to make rash decisions, to think about family unity. Family unity? I scoffed. That's rich coming from people who let their family fall apart because it was too uncomfortable to speak up. I left without looking back. Over the weekend, Mitchell moved fast. Papers were drawn up, filed, and served to Kelly at her mom's house. She called me, crying, begging to talk. I told her to have her lawyer contact mine and hung up. Dylan tried calling too. I blocked his number. Then blocked him on everything else, social media, email. As far as I was concerned, I didn't have a brother anymore. Sunday dinner time came around. I wasn't there. I got several texts from family asking where I was. Ignored them all. Monday morning, Lauren showed up at my house before work. I almost didn't open the door, but she kept knocking. What do you want? I asked through the crack. To talk to you. Please, Trevor, just give me 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She looked terrible, like she hadn't slept. She just sat on my couch and started sobbing. I'm so sorry, she choked out. I wanted to tell you so many times. I almost did, probably a dozen times. But Mom and Dad said it wasn't our place. And Dylan kept saying he was going to end it. And how long have you known? I interrupted, my voice devoid of emotion. Since the beginning, she admitted. I saw them together at a movie theater about 2 years ago. I confronted Dylan and he told me everything. Made me promise not to tell you because he said he was going to end it soon. 2 years. My little sister had known for the entire 2 years and said nothing. Why? I asked. Why didn't you tell me? Because I'm stupid, she cried. Because Dylan kept saying it wasn't serious. That he was going to stop. That telling you would just hurt you unnecessarily if it was about to end anyway. And then months would go by and I'd think maybe now isn't the right time. And then more months, eventually I don't know. I got paralyzed by it. Did you think it was funny? I asked. All those Sunday dinners watching me be clueless. Did you laugh about it? No. Lauren looked horrified. God, no, Trevor. Killed me. Every single dinner I felt sick watching it. But I didn't know how to tell you without destroying everything. Everything's destroyed anyway, I pointed out. The difference is now I know who I can trust. Turns out it's nobody. Lauren tried to explain more to make me understand, but I was done listening. I asked her to leave. She hugged me before she went, told me she loved me, that she was so sorry. I didn't hug her back. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings and cold silence from my family. Kelly tried everything to get a reaction out of me, showing up at work, sending long emails, even having her mom call me. I maintained total radio silence. Mitchell handled everything. Dylan tried a different approach. He showed up at my house one evening. I saw him through the window and didn't answer the door. He knocked for 10 minutes, then started yelling through the door about how we needed to talk like adults. You screwed my wife for 2 years. I yelled back through the closed door. We're done talking. It wasn't like that, he shouted. It just happened. Neither of us meant for this. I don't care. Leave before I call the cops. He finally left, but not before kicking over my garbage can like a petulant child. My parents tried their weekly check-in calls. I let them all go to voicemail. They'd leave these awkward messages about hoping I was okay, that they understood I needed space, that they were there when I was ready to talk. What they didn't understand was that I was never going to be ready to talk. They'd made their choice when they decided protecting Dylan's secret affair was more important than protecting their other son from utter humiliation. About 6 weeks into this Cold War, I got an interesting piece of mail. An invitation to my parents' annual 4th of July barbecue. This big family event they threw every year, extended relatives, neighbors, the whole deal. The invitation included a handwritten note from Mom. Please come. We miss you. It won't be the same without you. Love, Mom. I looked at that invitation for a long time. Part of me wanted to just shred it and continue the silent treatment. But another part of me had an idea. An idea that felt significantly more satisfying than just avoiding them. See, here's what nobody in my family knew. I'd spent those 6 weeks doing more than just processing my divorce and feeling sorry for myself. I'd been going through every financial document I could get my hands on from my parents' business. Remember, Dad runs an accounting firm. And the thing about accountants who handle other people's money? They tend to keep really detailed records, including for their own business. And my dad, being old school and somewhat paranoid about cloud storage, kept backup copies of everything at the house. I'd helped him set up his home office file system years ago when he was making the transition from paper to digital. I knew exactly where everything was stored. And more importantly, I still had the password to his home network from when I'd set up their Wi-Fi. I know what you're thinking. Isn't accessing someone else's computer illegal? Probably. But I'd argue that since I'd built the system and he'd never changed the default password I'd set up, he was kind of asking for it. Plus, I was well past caring about legal niceties at this point. What I found in those files was fascinating. My dad's accounting firm handled about 40 small business clients. Normal stuff. Restaurants, retail stores, a few medical practices. The kind of mom-and-pop businesses that need someone to manage their books and file their taxes but can't afford a big firm. Dad charged reasonable rates, gave good service, kept most of these clients for years. By all accounts, he ran a legitimate business, except for one little problem. He was also running a very illegitimate side operation. For about 15 of his clients, Dad had set up what's called a cash skimming scheme. These businesses dealt heavily in cash transactions, especially restaurants. Dad would help them underreport their cash income, keep it off the books, and avoid paying taxes on it. In exchange, he got a percentage of the savings. It's a fairly common form of tax fraud. Small businesses do it all the time. They rarely get caught because the IRS doesn't have the resources to audit every pizza place that underreports their cash sales by 10%. But Dad had gotten greedy. He wasn't helping businesses underreport by 10%. He was helping them hide 30 to 40% of their cash income. We're talking about hundreds of thousands in unreported income across all his clients. And he was taking 20% of the tax savings as his cut. The files laid it all out in beautiful, incriminating detail. Spreadsheets showing actual income versus reported income. Notes about cash pickups and splitting payments. Everything a prosecutor would need to build a case. Even better, some of these clients were family members. My Uncle Tommy owned a chain of 3 pizzerias. All of them underreporting income with Dad's help. My Aunt Rachel ran a catering business. Same deal. Dad's brother, my Uncle Kenneth, owned a used car lot. He was hiding income from cash vehicle sales. The whole extended family was in on various versions of this scheme, all coordinated through Dad's accounting firm. Now, I'm not an accountant, but I am an engineer. I know how to analyze systems, find weak points, and document evidence. I spent 3 weeks going through every file I could access, building a comprehensive timeline of the fraud, and organizing it all into a format that would be easy for investigators to follow. I made copies of everything, stored them in multiple secure locations, and prepared a detailed summary report explaining what I'd found and how the scheme worked. Then I accepted the invitation to the 4th of July barbecue. The party was exactly what I expected. Extended family, neighbors, everyone crowded into my parents' backyard eating burgers, pretending everything was normal. Kelly wasn't there, thank goodness, but Dylan was holding court by the grill, telling stories that had everyone laughing. When I walked through the gate, conversation stopped. People stared like I was a ghost. Mom rushed over with this hopeful expression, trying to hug me. I sidestepped it. "I'm glad you came," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "This means we can start healing as a family." "Sure," I agreed, a chilling calm in my voice. "Let's talk about family." I walked over to where Dad was manning the grill with Uncle Tommy. Dylan saw me coming, and his expression went from surprise to something like fear. "Trevor," Dad said carefully. "Glad you could make it." "Wouldn't miss it," I replied. "Hey Dad, can I talk to you and Uncle Tommy inside for a minute? It's about business stuff." Dad looked confused but nodded. Tommy followed us inside to Dad's home office, probably thinking I wanted advice on something. Once we were all in there, door closed, I pulled out my phone. "So, I've been doing some light reading lately." I started scrolling through my notes. Going through old business files, tax returns, that kind of thing. Found some interesting inconsistencies. Dad's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the 15 businesses you're helping commit tax fraud," I stated, making eye contact with Dad, then Tommy. "Including Uncle Tommy's pizzerias. Want to explain how Johnny's reported $60,000 less income last year than what your private records show they actually made?" Uncle Tommy's face matched Dad's now. "Trevor, what?" he spluttered. "Save it," I interrupted. "I've got everything. Every spreadsheet, every note, every transaction. Years worth of evidence showing systematic tax fraud across multiple businesses. All coordinated through Dad's firm." "You've been spying on me?" Dad spluttered. "Going through my private business files? You mean the files stored on a network I built, using a password I created in a system I set up?" I shrugged. "Yeah, I went through them. Fascinating stuff. I especially like the spreadsheet labeled Cash Adjustments, where you track how much each client is hiding from the IRS. Tommy looked like he might throw up. "Trevor, you don't understand. This is how small businesses survive. The tax system is rigged against." "I don't care," I cut him off. "I don't care about your justifications or your reasons. You want to know what I care about? I care that my entire family watched my wife cheat on me with my brother for 2 years and thought it was funny to keep it a secret." Dad found his voice. "This isn't about Kelly and Dylan. This is completely separate." "Is it though?" I asked. "Because from where I'm standing, this family has a real problem with keeping secrets. You all kept quiet about Dylan screwing my wife because it was convenient. Well, I kept quiet about discovering your tax fraud for 6 weeks because it was convenient for me to document everything properly before I did anything about it. What are you saying? Tommy whispered, fear creeping into his voice. I'm saying I reported all of you to the IRS 3 days ago. Sent them a comprehensive package with all the evidence I gathered. They called yesterday to confirm they'd received everything, and that it looked very compelling. The silence in that room was beautiful. You didn't, Dad said, his voice flat. I did. And you know what's funny? They seemed really interested. Said this kind of organized fraud across multiple businesses usually triggers automatic audits. Criminal investigations if the amounts are large enough. Which they are. Tommy grabbed my arm. Trevor, you can't do this. My businesses. My family. I pulled my arm away. Funny thing about family, Uncle Tommy. I thought family meant something too. Thought it meant people looking out for each other, being honest with each other, having each other's backs. Turns out I was wrong. This is insane. Dad said, his voice rising. You're going to destroy multiple businesses, hurt dozens of families, all because you're angry about your marriage? No, I corrected. You destroyed multiple businesses by committing federal tax fraud. I just made a phone call. See, that's the thing about secrets. They're only valuable as long as everyone agrees to keep them. Once someone decides to tell the truth, everything falls apart. I headed for the door. Tommy tried to block me, but I stepped around him. You know what the IRS agent told me? I said, my hand on the doorknob. She said they love it when people hand them cases this well documented. Makes their job easy. Usually takes years to build a case this solid. I did all the work for them. Trevor, please, Dad said. And I'd never heard his voice sound so broken. We can fix this. We can work something out. Just call them back and tell them it was a mistake, that you misunderstood what you were looking at. I can't do that, Dad. See, when you file a report with the IRS, they take it seriously. Once the investigation starts, there's no taking it back, especially not when the evidence is this strong. I opened the door and walked out, leaving them standing there. Made my way through the party, ignoring the whispers and stares from relatives who'd noticed the commotion. Got to my car and drove away from my parents' house for what I figured might be the last time. My phone started blowing up within minutes. Calls and texts from Dad, Tommy, other relatives who'd been informed of what I'd done. I blocked them all and drove home in silence. The next morning, I got a call from Mitchell, my lawyer. Did you really report your dad to the IRS? He asked. News travels fast. Trevor, you realize this is going to cause massive problems for your entire family, right? I'm aware. And you're okay with that? I thought about Kelly and Dylan laughing together at restaurants while I worked late. About my parents watching me bring my wife to Sunday dinners, knowing what was happening. About Lauren keeping the secret for 2 years. About an entire family that decided my humiliation was less important than their comfort. Yeah, I told Mitchell. I'm okay with that. Over the next few weeks, the dominoes started falling in spectacular fashion. The IRS moved faster than I'd expected, probably because the evidence package I'd provided was so comprehensive. Within 2 weeks, Dad received notification that his firm was being audited, along with 15 of his clients. Uncle Tommy's pizzerias got hit with a full investigation. The catering business, the used car lot, a construction company run by my cousin. All of them got notices. The IRS was being thorough, following every thread I'd laid out in my report. Dad tried calling me repeatedly. I didn't answer. He tried coming to my house. I didn't open the door. Finally, he sent a registered letter through his lawyer, begging me to recant my statement to the IRS, claiming I'd misunderstood what I'd seen in his files. I had Mitchell respond with a very simple message. The IRS already had everything and there was nothing to recant. The evidence spoke for itself. The criminal investigation started in week 3. Federal agents showed up at Dad's office with a warrant, seized all his files and computers, did the same at Uncle Tommy's pizzerias and the other businesses involved. Apparently, when you help coordinate tax fraud across multiple businesses, the government takes it really seriously. My phone started getting calls from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. All of them wanting to know why I'd done this, how I could betray family. Didn't I realize I was hurting innocent people? I saved one of those voicemails from my Aunt Rachel. She tearfully explained how the catering business was her whole life. How she had employees who depended on her. How I was destroying everything over a personal grudge. A personal grudge. Like discovering your wife's affair and your family's profound betrayal was equivalent to being cut in line at the grocery store. The divorce proceedings wrapped up around the same time the IRS investigation was hitting full stride. Kelly fought it at first, tried to claim she deserved half of everything despite the affair. Her lawyer quickly advised her that a fault divorce in our state meant she'd be lucky to walk away with anything. We settled. She got her car, her personal belongings, and enough money to get her own place. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, and my dignity. Mitchell did excellent work. Kelly tried to talk to me one last time at the final court appearance. Said she'd made a terrible mistake, that she still loved me, that Dylan had manipulated her. I told her I didn't care who manipulated whom. They deserved each other. Last I heard, Dylan had dumped her 3 weeks after my divorce was finalized. Apparently, once the thrill of sneaking around was gone, their relationship had no foundation. Who could have predicted that? Dylan tried to contact me exactly once during all of this. Sent me a long email explaining his side of the story, how he'd fallen in love with Kelly, how it wasn't about hurting me, how I needed to understand that sometimes these things just happen. I didn't read past the first paragraph. Just forwarded it to Mitchell with a note, in case we need evidence of his character for anything. The family completely fractured after the IRS investigation became public. Mom was so angry about the audit that she moved in with her sister temporarily. Dad was spending more time with lawyers than at his office, which was barely functioning anyway since half his clients had dropped him in terror of being associated with the scandal. Lauren tried to apologize again, sent me a long letter about how she understood if I never forgave her, but wanted me to know she regretted not telling me the truth. I appreciated the letter more than I'd expected, but I still wasn't ready to talk to her. Maybe someday, not today. The extended family basically split into two camps. Those who thought I was justified and those who thought I'd gone too far. Thanksgiving that year was apparently a disaster, with the family unable to gather because too many people weren't speaking to each other. I wouldn't know firsthand because I wasn't invited. I spent Thanksgiving with Wade and his girlfriend instead. We ordered Chinese food and watched movies. Best Thanksgiving I'd had in years. The IRS investigation concluded about 7 months after I'd filed the initial report. The results were even better than I'd hoped. Dad's accounting license was permanently revoked. He could never practice accounting again in any official capacity. The firm was shut down. All assets ceased to pay fines and restitution. He was charged with 15 counts of conspiracy to commit tax fraud, among other things. The prosecutor offered a plea deal, 3 years in federal prison, hefty fines, full restitution to the government. Dad took the plea. Didn't have much choice given the evidence. He reported to minimum security prison 2 months ago. Mom is living with her sister, working part-time at a retail store to make ends meet. Their house was sold to pay restitution and legal fees. Uncle Tommy's pizzeria's all closed. He couldn't afford the back taxes, penalties, and legal fees. Last I heard, he was working as a manager at someone else's restaurant and living in a small apartment. The catering business went under. The used car lot got seized. The construction company declared bankruptcy. All the family businesses involved in the scheme collapsed under the weight of their unpaid taxes and legal problems. Dylan lost his job at the fancy gym. Turns out being at the center of a massive family scandal doesn't play well with their wealthy clientele. He's doing personal training out of his apartment now, struggling to rebuild his client base. Kelly moved back in with her parents in a different state. I heard through the grapevine that she's working at a dental office there, trying to rebuild her life. Good for her, I guess. Not my problem anymore. People have asked me if I regret it, if I think I went too far, destroyed too many lives over a personal betrayal. The answer is a resounding no. See, here's what everyone seems to forget. I didn't commit tax fraud. I didn't cheat on my wife. I didn't keep a massive secret that hurt someone I supposedly loved. I didn't decide that my comfort was more important than someone else's reality. They made all those choices themselves. I just decided that if family loyalty meant covering up lies and illegal activity, then I wanted no part of that family. If protecting Dylan's affair was more important than protecting me, then they could enjoy the consequences of their choices without my help. Everyone wants to act like I'm the bad guy for reporting the tax fraud. But nobody wants to acknowledge that the tax fraud was happening long before Kelly and Dylan ever got together. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that my entire family was comfortable committing federal crimes as long as they were profiting from it. The affair was just the trigger that made me stop being complicit in their dysfunction. A year later, I'm doing fine. Great, actually. I got promoted at work. Turns out when you're not constantly stressed about family drama and a failing marriage, you have more energy to focus on your career. My boss noticed the improved performance and rewarded it accordingly. I bought a new house. Nothing huge, but it's mine and it doesn't have any memories of Kelly in it. Decorated it exactly how I wanted without having to compromise with anyone. I started seeing someone new. Met her at a work conference. She's a project manager for a manufacturing company. Smart and funny and has no connection to my old life. We're taking it slow, but it's nice having someone who makes me laugh again. I reconnected with Wade properly, started making time for friendships instead of just family obligations. Joined a gym, picked up some hobbies, generally rebuilt a life that doesn't revolve around people who don't respect me. Lauren reached out again recently. She's cut ties with Dylan entirely and has minimal contact with our parents. We've been texting occasionally. Nothing heavy, just small talk. Maybe eventually we'll get back to being siblings. Maybe not. I'm okay either way. I don't miss my family. Not even a little bit. Sometimes people ask if I'm lonely or if I regret burning those bridges, and I tell them the truth. I'm happier now than I was when I had a family that treated loyalty like a one-way street. The last message I got from Dad was 3 months ago, forwarded through his lawyer. He wanted me to know he was sorry, that he understood why I'd done what I did, and that he hoped someday I could forgive him. I didn't respond. Forgiveness might come eventually or it might not. Right now, I'm focused on building a life with people who treat honesty like a basic requirement instead of an optional courtesy.